What is up, bros? Josh here. In today's video, we're going over some Montana gameplay, and this game was actually pretty intense and pretty fun. You guys will see what I'm talking about as we get into the game. But the Montana is a ship that is kind of almost want to do a video on it by itself, kind of like the German destroyer line, as we did a little while ago when I kind of brought up how this line or the German destroyers have kind of just been power crept over time. But really, kind of the Montana to me feels a little bit like that. However, though, I still love this ship. It still has a place in my heart, and it's something that I have been super I don't know, I still love this ship in the way that it was my first tier 10. I'm interested in what your guys' first tier 10 was. You know, for me, I've been playing the game so long now, and it's kind of fun to remember when the game first came out in open beta. I did a kind of a race, if you will, to tier 10 against one of the mods of my Twitch channel at the time. He was going for the Yamato, I was going for the Montana, because I loved the USN Battleships at the start. And actually, if any of you ever played the game that long ago, you remember how bad the Colorado was, and it actually made me quit Battleships for a little bit. But we ended up getting the Montana, and it was our first tier 10. And ever since then, it's still kind of held a place in my heart. But this game, though, and actually as time has gone on, the word power crept has definitely turned into something. And the Montana, I would say, is still fairly solid, but hasn't quite aged as well as a lot of other ships have. And with certain things like the Kremlin and just ships over time continuing to get legendary modules and stuff like that, the Montana has kind of lost some of its competitiveness. However, though, the Montana is still a battleship, and this is the first time, or in a long time, I've gotten a salvo like this. So this is, again, one we did live on twitch.tv /mejash. Wouldn't have expected this. Didn't think. Hey, there you go. It's been a long time since I have Devstruck a battleship like that, almost 100 to 0, as we took about 1,000 off the start. 1,000 right off the top, and then we took him out with the Devstrike. It's been a while since I've done that. I remember the first time I ever did it was in an Iowa versus a Yamato. I remember going middle on two brothers, catching an Iowa or a Yamato, not paying attention, and we ended up actually smacking him right in the cheek. It was actually kind of funny, and I think it was for about 5 or 6 citadels, the same amount, and it was another situation like that. But yeah, the Montana itself, though, the tier 10 USN battleship, in my opinion, has kind of lost some of its place. And if you ever want a really good example of kind of the ship itself, is comparing this, like, let's say, like the Kremlin. It almost feels like one's a tier 9 and one's a tier 10, or tier 10 and tier 11. And this isn't something that's trying to be like, oh, the Russian ships, blah 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 blah. But even like Montana versus Yamato seems like it just is a little bit different. And throughout this game, you're going to see what the Montana still does extremely well, and that is pumping out a ton of shells. And again, it is kind of a quantity. Again, we are taking the module, it's making this a bit more accurate, so we are giving up a bit of a reload here. But we are already at 6 citadels, 5 on that one battleship, 1 on that Donskoy, and don't worry, we're not done Devstriking some ships. But yeah, I think this ship itself has lost some of its competitiveness, but however, I still enjoy playing it because of what it can do, and you're going to see what it can do throughout this entire game. If you see the map, though, we are kind of just chilling. There's a lot of ships over here. And there's Citadel number 7. We will take that, but it still feels good to play this ship. I'm interested in what you guys think, though, about the Montana. Have you stopped playing it as much? Do you still play it as much? Do you still love the ship? Have you started playing other battleships for it? And really, the conversation of splits has come up with a lot of this, and I kind of hope that we really see a USN Battleship split someday, because there's a pretty clean split with how USN Battleships are. You see kind of the normal North Carolina, Iowa, Montana, fairly accurate, fairly tanky, all that kind of stuff all in one. And then you see kind of that, and you have this style of battleship. But then you also see the counter to this, and even the Colorado in that aspect. You see kind of the counter, which is the California we tested a long time ago, still technically work in progress. You see stuff like the Massachusetts, and then you see stuff like the Georgia and the Ohio, one a coal ship and then one a steel ship. But I would love to see a USN split, and that is, I would love to see USN be one more focused on guns, and then one be more of a hybrid secondary slash ship. I think that could be a lot of fun. They could actually use maybe the California as an event ship, to have that be the split, maybe get the California for free through that entire event. And then we actually see a USN Battleship split. I think that'd be a lot of fun, and I think it'd be quite popular. A lot of people love those ships that are kind of that split, that half secondary, half, you give up a little bit on the main caliber shell. But as you see right here, we're holding off on we're holding off this side basically because we don't really have many destroyers. And I'll let you know something. I don't want to push into a Worcester, a Smolensk, another Montana that's been lobbing shots at me, a Donskoy, and an Alaska in a CB game. Not super excited about doing that, so we're really kind of playing this a bit passive because we don't want to get in trouble. And yes, we are using the Ovechkin captain, as you can tell by all his awesome texts and lines. I love Ovechkin, it's so funny because torpedoes are starboard. But overall, this ship still is something I really enjoy to play. It's one that definitely has, I think, was kind of the king for a while. Yamato was, they kind of battled it out. Then the Yamato kind of took over. And then really, I feel like other ships have either brought in something unique. You see the GK. The GK is kind of a secondary specialist with Hydro and the ability to push and the ability to tank. You see the Yamato. The Yamato got the legendary module and got extremely, extremely accurate with that. Basically, these lasers of LOL pen level, ability to just forget about armor. And, we have the Kremlin. The Kremlin's this crazy tanky battleship that, again, once it gets close, it's just an absolute nightmare. You have the Republic, again, very large shells, a very fast reload. Can't really tank that well, but it's extremely fast. So you have all these unique ships that have brought really something to the game. And the Montana has kind of stayed as this vanilla base battleship, and kind of a lot of people come into the Twitch channel and say, hey, what are some good ships or good lines to start out with? And I always kind of recommend the USN line because I feel like overall they really kind of are just this vanilla middle of the ground, and then you kind of work out from that. But has that kind of hurt them in the long run? Really not having a specialization, or really not having this ability, but just kind of being this middle area. Overall, fairly solid. I mean, one of the USN strengths was, being a, let's say being a, maybe an AA type ship, but really, are there those anymore? I mean, especially when it comes to like a battleship, the Russian line has a fairly high AA now, but really, is that even a selling point for battleships anymore? I don't really think so. But yeah, they slowly gotten some heal buffs. The NorCal, the Tech Tree line basically got some heal buffs. And then we start even seeing other ships that maybe have become more fun, or begun to be more fun, and that is something like I said, the secondary style line. North Carolina probably doesn't get played as much anymore compared to, let's say, stuff like the Massachusetts. People are just going to find the Massachusetts more fun because it offers some, secondaries are just more fun, with giving up a little bit of accuracy, but overall, it's kind of lost a little bit. And really, I mean, when it comes to clan battles and rank battles and competitive and all that kind of stuff, you're never going to see a Montana, maybe unless there's someone feels bad for the Montanas, but still you're not really going to see one. And again, the middle part of this game was, this is one of those games where you're just like, well, all right, nothing's really going to happen here. It's just a matter of time before we lose. We had a whole division, a failed div that went to the one line, and they're slowly getting picked off. We have our Musashi, who is actually making a fairly good push, but can't really do too much. But hey, there's number 2, not too bad. So we're slowly keeping us in. We've killed 2 ships, both by me and both by Devstrikes. So we're trying to keep this game alive, but this game to me felt like such a normal high tier game these days, and it gets kind of old after a while of just absolute one-sided wins. There's nothing you can really do, and in the end, we lost both of our destroyers super easy, pretty typical there. However, though, their destroyers want to win a little bit harder, so they're gonna actually YOLO here, and the guys in the middle start working this. But this is maybe one of the coolest comebacks I've ever had, and at this point, it kind of just looks like it's over, right? The Worcester's gonna go cap C, we're gonna lose our Amalfi on A, we're gonna get pincered on B cap, and they have a lot of ships with a lot of health left, and there's nothing we can really do. Our Indomitable isn't really clipping too much, but we do get that. And man, I always want, if I can, always want to take out some Smolensk here. And we'll pop another one in. Again, 2 Devstrikes already. And the Smolensk. There's something about a Devstrike on a Donskoy sitting broadside. All right, we can do that. There's something about even Devstriking a battleship in another battleship. There's something about that that's just so rare. But there is nothing more rewarding than Devstriking. I mean, maybe a CV. Maybe a CV. But maybe following a CV is Devstriking a Smolensk. I don't think there is anything more rewarding besides maybe a CV than Devstriking a Smolensk. So we have 4 kills on the team so far, 3 of which are mine, and 3 of which are Devstrikes in an 11 Citadel game so far. So yes, shout out to all the cruisers and battleships that went broadside of this game. This has been a great little thing, and don't worry, we're not done with Citadels here. And the Montana, bring it down with another one, and we're really starting to bring this game back a little bit. We have to worry about 1 destroyer, but shout out to that destroyer for being so far away from anything productive the majority of this game. I think right now he is like south of A cap, because I was super worried about him kind of being a little bit of a problem. And I'm kind of bummed I didn't get this kill right here. I was trying to like walk my shot a little bit because I wasn't quite sure how fast. I think he ends up getting on like 1200 life or something like that. But yeah, we're still working here, but we're starting to actually bring this back in the Monty. And this is one thing too, that this potentially is a game where only the Monty could have done this. And the reasons being is because the Monty's just pumping out so many shells. Maybe the Yamato could have, but who knows, could have got some overpens. Maybe the Kremlin still could have kind of done this, but this is honestly a spot where I think the Monty kind of did Monty things, and that's still bringing a whole bunch of shells into the game. Yes, they aren't going to be the LOL pen that you see on the Kremlin, Republic, and the Yamato, but you do kind of get this quantity over quality. I guess that's kind of the wrong way of saying it. Not so much like the Leon at tier 7, but you get kind of a lot of smaller shells, which is crazy to think that this caliber shell is, I would consider, small these days. But yeah, we're starting to make this push here, and again, we're losing some health here. We're losing a little bit of time here, but the Alaska does pop that, and because I was so worried about this destroyer. Now it is the USS Black, and the USS Black has very, very slow torps, but we are actually making this push here, and the Alaska's actually playing this fairly well. There goes down some planes, the tier 8 planes, and it is tier 8 against the Monty, which is not going to be super scary, but still he was able to land 2 shots, or 2 torps on through both a tier 9 and a tier 10, fairly high AA rating. And this is where we get some pretty awesome teamwork as well. We're going to roll in. Missouri's over there. We work that down, and actually people kind of work together. Again, this is maybe one of the coolest comebacks we've had. We hit hard when we needed to on ships that needed to die. Down goes the Rune, and the Alaska can take that cap, and we'll be good. And I can kind of split and start getting my salvos on this. So, but yeah, shout out to basically kind of everything falling together this game. It seemed so early. I think I even said at the start of this game, when we got that Devstrike, that was awesome. Then we lost a bunch of ships, and we kind of lost all control of the map and all this. And this was one I was a little confused about because the torps were coming in. Now, this USS Black makes it much easier. First of all, those are very widespread torps at that range. So he's probably on the 4 line right now, south of us. He ends up going back to back to A cap, which makes no sense to me. It's basically a giant waste of time. Instead of just going to B cap, that's what I thought. I thought he was rolling south. Rolling south towards B and was going to come up, and then B. Alaska goes there, and I actually thought I got a little unlucky when it came to this Montana salvo right here, but we do get the high caliber right there. We have first blood, 3 Devstrikes, high cal, no Confederate yet. Feels bad, even though we have 3 even though we have 3 Devstrikes, no Confederate yet. And we're just going to slowly start pushing through. I'm trying to juke some torps, but look where the USS Black is. Look how out of position he is. I did not expect this, so I knew I could just go full speed because he's going to just roll down there and we're going to be fine. And in goes the salvo on this Monty as they start to work on him as well. Down goes the Monty, and we're going to get into a better spot and push on to B cap. So we're going to get A cap, get B cap, and I was like, okay, well, this game still isn't over. We could still definitely lose a couple people. Hindenburg's push it in, but really, these guys are all kind of sailing broadside to me. And I felt honestly fairly solid. We're going to be fairly safe when it comes to the Kaga at this point. It's going to be tough for him to work through 70 or 80k of life on the Monty at this point in the game. And I was hoping to maybe get like another Devstrike. I'm like, oh, that'd be so cool. It would make for a better video, you know, a 4 or 5 Devstrike game, and we get kind of these lackluster salvos on these last guys. I think we snag one more Citadel. I think we do on this Alaska. I'm not 100% sure. One of these guys, I think we do. But so far, this game, 3 Devstrikes, 3 kills, and slowly just working through. Going to help out with the Alaska a little bit more. Again, a very good skill that everyone should learn and kind of get better at is using a spotter plane. It's so important as a battleship player to get better at using. And there it is. There's our Confed. We'll take that. There's our 13th Citadel of the game. Maybe one of the highest Battleship Citadel games I've had in a long time, too. Ended up working out fairly good, and I'm like, oh, man. It's one of these games you do all this work, too, and you don't get the Kraken. But don't worry, in due time, my friends. And really, just not only a really good game in the Monty, a ship, again, kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to make this video. A ship I feel like really hasn't aged super well. I feel like it's still a good ship, but I feel like it's kind of started to lose a little bit of, you know, maybe what used to bring it there when it had less competition. But I kind of want to get some feedback with you guys. Do you guys feel like the USN Battleships are another line that's slowly getting power crept out? Or do you feel like it's a good thing to have in this game of this kind of, as I kind of explained it, as this vanilla middle ground line? What do you guys think about that? Is it good to have? I feel like it's probably not the worst thing to have, but when you want to, you know, have something that really kind of sets you apart, the USN line really doesn't have that anymore, other than it doesn't really have too much of a weakness. Like, I feel like the USN Battleships are right there with just being fairly solid the entire time. You have that with the destroyers. I feel like the destroyers have gotten into a spot where they aren't the best, but they aren't bad. They are, you know, they're at least good at every tier. Really, they are. The cruisers, they're at least good, besides maybe a couple. Maybe some people don't like Pensacola, maybe some people don't like the, you know, New Orleans, whatever, but they're at least decent of destroyers. The cruisers at least decent, the CVs at least decent. And this is something I just feel like, oh, it just feels so good to get insane dispersion like that. I always forget how accurate the Montana is when it comes to playing it, because again, I play so many other things. Like, yeah, as I type in chat right there, epic comeback. This was this was such a cool game. You don't really get games like this. Normally games are just so one-sided slaughters, and really this game was freaking epic. We got a ton of Citadels, a ton of Devstrikes, 3 Devstrikes with the Monty, and don't worry, we'll get the CV. In the end, we do get the CV. We were 1 or 2 shells off. I was super nervous. We only have 55 seconds here of getting it. I was like, 4 kills. It's always a bummer to not have the Kraken when you're making the YouTube video with stuff like this. And we have some plane kills, 57 target hits. So far, 4 kills, 3 Devstrikes, Confed, high cal, all the rewards. Again, that really awesome starting Devstrike was on a battleship nonetheless. And again, always shout out to everybody. We did get this once. We took this once down. But there it is. There it is. We finally get it. It's come back. We get our chance. And I was like, oh man, he's going to steal this kill, this CV. And bingo bango. So in the end, we do get our Kraken, but I wanted to show you guys this cool game. It was a lot of fun, an epic comeback, and in the Montana, still a ship I really enjoy playing. and overall one that I'll continue to play in. But I'm interested in what you guys think about the USN line. Would you guys like to see the split I talked about have one more about guns, kind of like what the current line is, and then maybe a split tier 6, tier 7 where there's more secondary focus? I think that might be kind of cool to have different options of playing there. But yeah, interested in your guys' feedback. Wanted to show you guys this awesome game, not only the Devstrike monster, but get your guys' feedback on the Montana and the USN Battleships in general. Anyways, that's it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Remember, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys this time.